Hello and thank you for watching. This is SDSC back again with LEGO Transformers Movie Jazz. Jazz here is what sparked my recent crop of '07 videos. He was the only Autobot from the movie I hadn't built yet, and I felt it was time to finally fix that. I had actually tried making Jazz in the past, but I was never able to come up with something I was happy with. While his design may not seem all that complicated, for whatever reason, I found it very tricky to translate it to this small scale. Returning to the project now was a very interesting challenge. It's been nearly a year since I built my last 4-wide movie car, and it took a bit to get back into the swing of things. I spent a good chunk of time coming up with ideas for him, only to realize they wouldn't quite work and would have to start over. But eventually I came up with something that would work, and was able to build this. In this mode, the model is a nice approximation of Jazz in his Pontiac Solstice Alt mode. Up front, he has the 2 sets of headlights and the rounded grille. Unfortunately, the top lights had to be solid white, as they don't produce this piece in clear, at least not yet. In the back, things do get a little bit gappy and there's no tail lights, but he does have his spoiler. Now finally taking a look at the '07 Autobots together at last, Jazz fits in incredibly well. He has a similar level of detail to the other Autobots, and they make an amazing team. I especially love how Jazz looks with B. That's all there is to say about Jazz in his car mode, so now it's time to transform. When designing these small movie builds, I find it's important to rely on the abstract nature of LEGO, instead of trying to fuss over every small detail. That was a very tricky mindset to get back into after such a long time of mostly building large-scale models, and I almost had to relearn it while building Jazz. One aspect I remember getting specifically stuck on was his arms. I ended up really overthinking ways to get the wheels onto his shoulders, and then eventually I came up with this simple way of having the front headlights swing forward to be his forearm. Sure, it's a little bit awkward looking, but it accomplishes his transformation efficiently and results in a fairly accurate look. It was completely unintentional, but the underside of the brackets on his shoulders kinda resemble the vents he's supposed to have there. In the film, Jazz's headlights end up on his wrists. While I wasn't able to pull that off, they do end up on his forearms, just on his elbows instead. It was very important to me that Jazz had a 3-wide chest, as having a full 4-stud width would throw off his proportions. It helps to make him feel smaller and more diminutive, but unfortunately it also resulted in his grille being upside down in this mode, as there's no clearance to turn it. Moving up the torso, I was actually able to get the spoiler placed accurately behind his head. The legs were another tricky part of the build. They were the last part I made, and they had to account for a whole lot of car. Because of that, they may be a little too bulky, but I think it looks fine. He has some rounded shaping to his thighs, and the nice golden details on his ankles. The feet are slightly strange, as I had to account for his big backpack. Yeah, the entire roof of the car ends up on his back, like a turtle shell. It's probably my least favorite aspect of the build, but with movie car bots, it's pretty hard to avoid roof backpacks. Regardless, I do wish I was able to have it compress better, or to have this chunk of the car contribute more to the robot's mass. I've built Jazz's weird shield blaster, which can simply peg into his hand. It's not super accurate, as I wasn't able to find a good way to represent the strange cut circle shape at this scale. Jazz was certainly a frustrating build, but he was also very rewarding. It was fun to take a step back and return to my 4-stud wide movie series of builds. These small car bots always present major challenges that require unique solutions. It's a very different experience to building my larger G1 style builds. In the end, I think he's a great representation of Jazz at this tiny scale. Maybe he could stand to be a little shorter, but he still feels noticeably smaller when compared to his fellow Carbot B, just based on how they use their respective car mode's mass. Ultimately, I'm super happy to finally complete my 07 Autobots. They look incredible together and capture the magic of that original lineup. But that's all for now, so I'll see you next time.